Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 106 of Toss, the Tristain Sports Show. It is your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us. What do we got on tap for this week? In the state of the state, we got to talk about the Bucks. A good game and a bad game over the last two. We got to talk about the Badgers and the Marquette Golden Eagles. See what they've been doing this season. We're in March. The madness is about to begin, but where are they right now? We got to mention the Green Bay Packers. We got a couple of news bits in there. And then the toss, we're talking MLB and WNBA. Yes, there is more dumbassery to speak about in the world of sports. It never ends. But you all know how we get things started. Here on Toss, we get things started with the state of the state. And let's get started with the world champion Milwaukee Bucks, currently sitting at 37-25. That's after a victory this past Monday against the Hornets, but we'll get to that victory in a second. As I mentioned in the teaser, the rundown, if you will. I mentioned there was a good game and a bad game. This Saturday, prime time, national television, Bucks, Nets, now no Kevin Durant, no Ben Simmons, but the Nets are on the road at Pfizer in Milwaukee. That means Kyrie Irving was playing. And Kyrie was hot. He was just having one of those nights where he was making just about everything. But yet the Bucks are still in it. Now, the Bucks really became undone in the third and fourth quarter. This is the bad. Against the Nets, overall, they went 25 for 38 from the free throw line. And I'm talking some critical misses by everybody that was shooting free throws, especially in that fourth quarter. Drew Holiday missing, Giannis missing, Chris missing. Anyone who was anybody was missing. They were all sloppy with the basketball, 14 turnovers. I believe the Nets went on to score, I believe, 29 to 30 points off of those turnovers. And the Bucks continue with their putrid third quarters. They gave up 43 points in that third quarter. That really allowed the Nets to stay in that game. They did take a lead at one point, and then eventually they took a lead and never gave it back. Bucks ended up losing that game, and it was a winnable game. Despite all that, they lost by single digits and had a chance to tie the game at the end, did the Bucks. Giannis missing a turnaround three. It was a good look. Didn't go down, but it should have never come down to that to begin with. You take care of the basketball, you make your free throws, you don't have your third quarter swoons, which you still have not been able to figure out. You win that ball game and you win it handily. Mike Budenholzer, after that game, talks about they have to do something to get that figured out. Bobby Portis, in line with him, saying essentially the same thing. But when are you going to figure this out? We're 60-plus games. You're over 75% into this season now. And this has been a problem all season. It's got nothing to do with personnel. What are y'all doing at halftime that makes you come out basically asleep in the third quarter to where you just don't play a lick of defense? Are you saving it for the fourth quarter, hoping you haven't dug yourself too deep in the hole so you can make a furious comeback? I mean, it is absolutely perplexing to see how this team that is so very good, defending champions, be so terrible in one quarter of a game consistently. It's a thing. It's one thing for it to be here or there, and every team has a bad quarter here and there. consistently all season long, the Bucks have not gotten it done in the third quarter. What are you doing at halftime? You talk about you need to figure it out. You need to figure it out. This isn't like last year where you were doing different things to get yourself ready for the battles of the playoffs to do what you did, which was win a championship. This is something completely different. And no one, including Mike Budenholzer, can seem to figure it out. It's concerning because you cannot have this come playoff time. You really can't have it in the regular season when the Eastern Conference is an absolute fist fight. You can't afford to lose games because of one bad quarter because you inexplicably cannot figure it out. Just absolutely perplexing for them to be so terrible in the third quarter. Now, you take that Nets loss and you just felt like, okay, maybe this is the slap in the face that they needed to understand, like, man, they didn't have KD. They didn't have Ben Simmons. James Harden's no longer here. And we lost that game. And we had everybody, essentially, with the exception of Brook, which he's inching closer to a comeback. They're keeping pretty tight-lipped, but we essentially had everybody that we've had all season. And we lost that game. We just can't figure it out in the third quarter, but we need to figure it out. So you take the salt from that loss, which should have not been a loss, and you fast forward to Monday. You got a day to think about it. No game on Sunday. You get back to it Monday. And you can see the difference. Now, the competition was not the same. You're going up against the Hornets. At that point, there were 2 games under 500. They're now 3 games under 500 because they lost. Bucks won on Monday. But it was a completely different story in that game compared to Saturday. Bucks went 32 of 37 from the free throw line. They rectified that. They need to keep it that way. Still pretty sloppy with the basketball, 13 turnovers, but it's not the 14 that they had on Sunday. And they did not have that third quarter swoon against the Hornets. If anything, they boosted that lead big time, which is what you're supposed to do. Get the game out of reach, then get some rest in the fourth quarter. This is the dismantling that we've seen from Bucks teams in years past. That's the type of basketball we've come to expect. And that defensive lineup with Bembry and Carter and Holiday and Giannis. I mean, you can lock some guys up. Now, if you get that rim protector, and I like what Serge Ibaka's bringing to the table in that regard. But if you get Brook as the rim protector, I'm not even talking about his shooting or any type of post-up scoring. I'm talking strictly from a defensive standpoint of being that rim protector. If you get that Brook back with the type of perimeter defense that they have, they're going to have teams locked up come playoff time. You're going to have a damn hard time scoring against this team. Is this game, we talk about the Hornets game, is this the launch pad for them to get back to the dominance that we're used to seeing? Or at the very least, the consistency that we're used to seeing. Not that third quarter swoon. Going in, handling business, dismantling teams the way that you know you can, giving your guys some rest in the fourth quarter. You hope it's the launch pad for good things to close out the season. You're in March now. You'll be quickly approaching April. Playoff time. And this is judgment week of sorts. You know how in college basketball, we're inching closer to judgment week? I think we are in judgment week because some conference tournaments have already started. But really, the big conference tournaments are probably going to start next week. But you know how they say, oh, it's judgment week because the committee is looking at teams and deciding on, okay, this team's going to be in line for a 1 seed, and this team is in line to be on. They're on the bubble, but they have a chance to make it. It's really sort of judgment week for the Bucks. In their next 3, they host the Miami Heat. They go to Chicago. And then they host the Phoenix Suns. Granted, Chris Paul will not be there. But that's a hell of a stretch for your next 3. And it's very much judgment week. Bucks going to have to make some hay. They have to solidify their spot. They don't want to slide down into that play-in range. The Eastern Conference is going to be a fist fight. Bucks have to start making hay. They have to start ascending. They have to start playing their best basketball. And the next 3 games are going to be a big test in seeing if they can do that. Continuing here on State of the State on Toss, we have to talk Badgers men's basketball and Marquette Golden Eagles men's basketball. The Badgers currently locked up in a tight battle with Purdue. It is a top 10 clash. I believe Purdue's number 8 and Wisconsin's number 10 in the country. They weren't picked to do anything, the Badgers. It said they're sitting here at 23-5, currently 14-4 in the Big Ten. That's first. If they win against Purdue, it's at least a share of the Big Ten championship. If they beat Illinois in their final regular season game, it is an outright Big Ten championship. This team was picked to do nothing. And those 2 games are at home. Right now, they're currently, as we record this program on a Tuesday night, they're locked up with Purdue. It's getting late in the second half. And it's a very close game here. Johnny Davis with a nice move, trying to increase their score. But they weren't picked to do anything. And instead, they're having one of their best seasons in program history. Marquette hiring the Wisconsin kids, Shaka Smart, VCU, Texas, now Marquette. And he's got them raising havoc. They're currently sitting at 18-10. They're 10-7 in the Big Ten. They weren't picked to do anything either. That's good enough for 5th. They've had some really good wins. I think they're firmly in the tournament. Obviously, the Badgers firmly in the tournament. I think they have the most quad 1 wins in the country. I believe there's some ridiculous number, 12-1, 13-1 in games decided by 6 points or fewer. They find a way to win. They can win those close ones. So this close one that they got going with Purdue, they got Purdue right where they want them. Both squads really crushed those takes by people who felt that they weren't going to do much of anything. I didn't know what to expect from the Badgers, but I know Greg Gard. I know Greg Gard typically gets the best he possibly can out of his guys. And Johnny Davis developing into the National Player of the Year, what a revelation. And make no mistake about it, he is the National Player of the Year, period. Full stop. If you've been watching Shaka Smart's career, you know the havoc that he raised when he was at VCU. He got Texas to play some pretty good basketball, but not on the level that Texas expected. Okay, Texas's loss is Marquette's gain. And he's got the Golden Eagles playing some havoc. Deflections, steals, constant pressure. Turning defense into offense, getting out in transition. They got some athletes to do that. But I am enjoying those two squads because they are really great stories in college basketball because they both were picked to do nothing. And not only are they not doing nothing, they're firmly entrenched in the NCAA field. Where they will be, I do not know. I think you have to start considering Wisconsin to be one of those upper seeds. Maybe not a 1, but you got to start considering them for a 2 or a 3. They have the resume to do so. And if they win an outright Big Ten championship, you got to give it to them, regardless of what they do in the Big Ten tournament. But a great season so far from these two. Not over yet. Hopefully they got a lot of basketball left to be played. You got conference tournaments. And then you got the NCAA tournament. Again, I feel both of these squads have done enough to firmly entrench themselves in the field. It's just going to be great to watch and see where these guys end up. It's just really good to see both of them having success when nobody thought they would have any sort of success this season. Continuing here on Toss, State of the State, let's talk Green Bay Packers. Yes, they are in an offseason. But like I said, there's always usually something going on. If you're talking purely Packers transactions, you're talking about a flurry of contract negotiations, or restructures. There are some negotiations going on. We'll touch on that in a second. But a lot of restructures. Converting a lot of that contract money into a signing bonus, giving them cap relief. Why would they want cap relief? Not just to re-sign their big guys. Rodgers, Adams, Devondre Campbell should be considered that as well. I mean, you're talking about you waited for a decade to find a linebacker like him. You got him. You need to pay him. But I digress. It's not just to get those contracts done, but you also need to sign your draft picks. So Goot, Russ Ball, digging their heels in, getting the work done. As I said, it's been reported that Rodgers' contract is a priority, as is Devontae Adams. And again, I'm going to say it again. You need to make Devondre Campbell's contract a priority. Now, it seems to be as such because Devondre Campbell was in Green Bay last weekend, or a couple of weekends ago, trying to get a contract worked out with Green Bay before the void came in, before the void hit. And he did try to do that. Unfortunately, they did not come to an agreement. But you hope that they will. Again, he's an all-pro. You need to keep a guy like that on your squad. You've been looking for a linebacker like that for a decade, and you got him. You need to pay him. But the big news, because there's no really, and everything I've been hearing about the contracts, it's really the same. You know, they're keeping in contact with Rodgers in case he makes that decision to come back. They're negotiating a deal. Now, the number is $50 million a year because he wants to be the highest paid quarterback. And I know there's a lot of that stuff going out there. I'm going to tell you from the people that I've spoken to, I have not heard anything about him wanting to be the highest paid quarterback. He wants to be appreciated. But, yeah, he does want to raise. His thing is he wants to be here long term. That's what he's always wanted. To be respected, to be a part of the communications as being a Hall of Fame quarterback, a 4-time MVP. I mean, the Packers hired Tom Clements on his pretty much at his behest almost. And you don't make a move like that unless you're confident that he's going to come back, meaning Aaron Rodgers. Yes, Clements will be great for Jordan Love with his mechanics and everything else. It is a big yet. Make no question about that. He was instrumental in Rodgers' development. He could be the same for Jordan Love. But you don't make a move like that unless you're confident that your MVP quarterback is coming back. But again, we'll see. Devontae Adams and the club have been in constant communication. They continue to be in constant communication. That's the most that I was able to get. Not much on the Devondre Campbell front. I know they've had some communication. There could be more. But at least there's still ongoing communication in that regard. But as I was saying, the big news of this week, NFL announced teams that will be, or at least 3 teams that will be playing games in London. 2 in the Tottenham Stadium and 1 at Wembley. And for the first time, franchise history, the Green Bay Packers will be playing in London at Tottenham. It's interesting because it's the first year with the 17-game schedule that in the 17-game schedule era, I should say, that the Packers had 9 home games. I remember last season they had 9 road games and only 8 home games. The big sticking point for why Green Bay did not want to go over to the UK to begin with was because they did not want to give up a home game. You're talking one team that has consistent sellouts at home, Lambeau Field. They did not want to give up that revenue, and I cannot blame them. You got 9 home games. The NFL was like, okay, they negotiated in the fact that if you have 9 home games, you could be picked to go over and play an international game, whether it be in Mexico, whether it be in Germany, whether it be in the UK at London, to be host in one of those games. And when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, I'm sure this has got to be a road game, right? Because I knew that was the big sticking point. This has got to be a road game. No, it is a home game. The Packers are considered the home team for their game in London. Now, the interesting thing about that, because, again, that was the biggest sticking point for Green Bay. We do not want to give up a home game at Lambeau Field where we make hand over fist revenue at home. Have you seen our family nights? It's like a regular season football game. You get 75,000 people in here for a scrimmage. Have you seen our preseason games? We get 78 to 80,000 people as if it's a regular game day here. You really think we want to give up that revenue? You're going to have to give us something. And I have not been able to confirm this, so I'm not reporting it as firm. What I am going to tell you is that the rumor is the Packers said, okay, if we're going to give up home revenue to go and play internationally for the first time in franchise history, we're going to need something in return. Now, you already told us that we're not going to have a Super Bowl in Green Bay ever. But there is something else that you can give us. And it was something that was reported a few years ago. And people jumped on it and said, hey, it's happening, it's happening. And I thought, okay, it's happening until I dug in a little bit more like, oh, it's not happening. They're potentially a finalist. And end up not getting it. It's the NFL draft. And at that point in time, I said, I'm going to continue to stay on top of this story to see if they are, in fact, a finalist for future years. And they were. 2024, they are a finalist to host the NFL draft. So the rumor is, you give us the draft, we'll give you a home game in London. We will give up home revenue. In the first year, we'll have 9 regular season home games. We will give up that revenue for one game. If you give us the draft. That's the rumor floating around. Again, I'm not reporting it as firm news. That is just what I've been hearing floated around. Have not been able to confirm it as firm. Again, I want to stress that. but it's just a rumor. But if that did happen, hey, look, we'll give you that, but you got to give us the draft. And rightfully so. Why not host a draft in Green Bay? It's the mecca of football. Every football fan needs to experience a game at Lambeau Field. There is not a bad seat in the house. Perfect vantage views from everywhere. It is a special, special place. I still feel something. Just a feeling of all the legends that crossed that threshold on those grounds. When I'm driving on the highway, I still get the chills. I still get that special feeling like it's the first time I'm seeing Lambeau Field, much less going to interview people at Lambeau Field. It's such a special, special place still to this day. And to have the NFL draft at Lambeau Field in the city of Green Bay will be tremendous for that community, tremendous for the franchise. But lots going on with the Green Bay Packers that we're going to continue to keep track of and just tell everybody to stay tuned. Offseason is in full swing. And that's state of the state. The Bucks still taking the good with the bad, but they got to get rolling. They got a hellacious 3-game schedule coming up against the Heat, the Bulls, and the Suns. The Badgers going to win at least a share of the Big Ten championship if they can pull this off against Purdue. Marquette firmly entrenched in the tournament field. Both teams selected to do nothing, and they're doing more than something. And the Packers making moves with contracts, trying to create more cap space to sign some of their bigger players, as well as their draft picks. Playing internationally for the first time, and also in the running for the 2024 NFL Draft. A lot going on there. But right now, it's time for us to run the toss sweep. The Toss Sweep, brought to you by the good folks at TossNationMedia.com. TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. Y'all, there's more dumbassery going on. I've about had my damn fill of the dumbassery, but we got to bring it to y'all. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it to laugh through the pain and make us feel better. But sometimes it just don't make any damn sense. Let's start with the MLB. Today was the owner's deadline for the Players Association to accept their final and best offer, apparently. And the owners really have not been negotiating in good faith. That's the best way I could put it. Have not been negotiating in good faith. The players are trying to fight for fair wages for the younger players, get them more control of their career and their free agency and being able to make their money and revenue sharing and everything else. And they've compromised, and the ownership has not. I just don't understand how some people are out there, one, trying to both sides it. You got billionaires fight with millionaires. Okay, yeah, but these millionaires, meaning the players, are trying to fight for fairness amongst all teams and amongst all players, especially those coming up and those in the minor leagues. It's not the players who lock themselves out, or lock the owners out. It's the owners that lock the players out. It's the owners who have not been negotiating in good faith. And because the Players Association did not accept their final and best offer, which was not even close to what the players are trying to seek, and that's even with the things that they have compromised on. As a result of them not accepting that deal, the owners have canceled the first 2 series for every team in the major leagues in this upcoming season. And that's even if there's going to be a season at this point. In Brewer speak, that means 6 straight home games. They were opening up the season with 6 straight home games, 2 straight series against the Diamondbacks and against the Giants. That's 6 games of revenue lost for the Brewers. And I'm just doing that in pure Brewer speak because it affects every major league team, because now, and these games will not be made up. So your 162 game season is now at 158. Or excuse me, 158. It's now at 156. At some point, you got to figure it out. Owners are asking for 16 teams to make the playoffs, and the players compromised to 14. I mean, that's almost half the league making the playoffs. I mean, this notion that the players have not compromised, they've compromised in many areas. The owners have not. The owners are the ones that lock the players out. The owners are the ones who try to bring in a federal mediator to negotiate when they had no designs on fairly negotiating. And now they're trying to paint this picture that, oh, it's the players' fault. The players ruined it. And there's a letter out there from Rob Manfred, the MLB commissioner, and I didn't even bother reading it because whatever he's got to say is just going to make your blood boil. I mean, it really seems like this man despises the game of baseball, and he's doing everything to ruin it. That's what it seems like from my perspective. How can you be the commissioner of a sport and actively do everything you can to destroy it? I don't get it. But he's the mouthpiece for the owners, and he's the face of the owners, and he's the one that's going to take the brunt of the punishment, but he's also the one that has come up with these rules and proposed them and did all these other things that are slowly chipping away at what the game is. But at some point, you got to figure it out. Do I have faith they'll figure it out? Yes. I do not believe that this season will be canceled. I don't think it will go that deep. If anything, it's not going to be like 94 where they cancel the season. And, and I still feel for the Expos on that because they were by far the best team in all of baseball. All of baseball. Probably would have won the World Series that year, but unfortunately the strike happened and it was over. But I don't foresee it going that route. I don't foresee a cancellation of the season. Do I see it going deep as maybe playing 100 games, maybe less than 100 games? Yeah, I can see that. I can see it going that deep. But I don't foresee it being completely canceled. But I'll tell you this, they're going to have a hell of a time trying to come back from this. Owners and players alone. The game is damaged because of this. I know after 94, you had you had McGuire and Sosa bring the game back. Barry Bonds doing what he was doing. Obviously, all of them juicing. They weren't the only ones. But you don't have anybody like that. You don't have a chase like that that's going to happen. You don't have feel-good stories like that that's going to happen. And these are far different economic times than it was mid-90s. Game's damaged. They got a lot of work to do. They're going to have to get back to the table at some point, and ownership is going to have to compromise to get this done and let these players do what they love and let the fans who are also being hurt in all of this enjoy the game that they love. Finishing up on a tall sweep, we got to talk WNBA, y'all. Now, y'all know I have loved the women's game since I was a teenager. Love watching the women play. I remember the first WNBA game like it was yesterday. You got the Sparks and the Liberty. Penny Toller hitting the first basket. You had stars all over the court. Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, Teaspoon. You talk about some real squads. You got to talk about some real legends on that court. It's no secret that the NBA subsidized this league. It's no secret that this league doesn't really do a great job of marketing its stars and marketing itself. Even their broadcast partners put them in inopportune spots. I mean, you talk about this league had their finals on ESPN News. I can't tell you the last time I watched ESPN News. This is a major league. You need to act like it. Have them on ESPN. Have them on ABC, where everybody can see them. Market them. Get them out there. Believe in them. Show them that you truly believe in them. And treat them for the world-class athletes that they are. But that ain't what's happening. So the WNBA fined the New York Liberty, and this is a league record. They fined them $500,000. Why did they fine the New York Liberty $500,000? And this is where the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, is jacked. And it's jacked in many spots, and this is one of them. They fined the New York Liberty $500,000, which is a league record, for taking chartered flights in the second half of last season. Let me repeat that. They fined the New York Liberty a league record $500,000 for allowing the team, their players, to take chartered flights because the rest of the league felt that it was an unfair advantage because their owners don't want to pony up for chartered flights and treat them as the world-class athletes that they are. There were other possibilities besides a fine. They thought about suspending their owners. They were talking about taking draft picks from them. And there was even talk, get this, there was even talk of terminating the franchise for allowing their athletes. Now, a lot of these women are well over 6 feet. I'm 6 foot tall, and I struggle being on a plane. So imagine somebody like 6'8", Elizabeth Cambage. Benaja Laney, and I know Cambage is not on the Liberty. I know that, now she's in LA where she always wanted to be, but I'm just using her as an example. She's tall. She's got height, as a lot of these women do. They're world-class athletes who need that recovery time. And the best part of recovery is space. Being able to stretch out. Get some leg sleeves going. Some ice. This story is wild. This is an excerpt from one of the stories about it. On September 13th, according to a source familiar with the call, the WNBA Board of Governors considered an unofficial proposal from the Liberty. Okay? Get this. So the ownership of the Liberty came up with solutions. Just listen to this. An unofficial proposal from the Liberty to make charter flights the default travel option for WNBA teams. Great, right? The Liberty said they'd found a way. This is even better. Found a way to get it comped for everyone in the league for 3 years. Free charter flights for 3 years for every single WNBA team. So everybody would be on the same level playing field if that was their ownership's gripe with it. Okay, everybody gets charter flights. We can do this. I found a way we can get it comped for 3 years. But it lacked majority support. Some owners worried that players would get used to it, so there'd be no going back. And others wondered whether players might just prefer a salary hike instead. Why can't they do both? Why can't you give a salary hike and allow them to travel on chartered flights so they can do their jobs? I mean, I cannot believe the dumbassery of this. I cannot believe that owners complain that, the Liberty are having charter flights. That's an unfair advantage because our team has a travel commercial. No, they don't. You make the decision to make your team travel commercial, first off. The Liberty came back and said, okay, cool. We found a way to get everybody, every single team, so every single athlete can fly charter flights, and we have it comped for the next 3 years. 3 years, you can figure out how to make this a permanent thing. That gives you 3 years to get your finances straight so you can get these players, these world-class athletes, on charter flights so they're not cramped in the economy and have to use their own money to upgrade themselves so they have the room to rest and recover from going to play for your team. So they can be the best athlete they can be and go out and perform at a high level. They came up with a solution so every team could have the same advantage. Okay, everybody gets charter flights free for 3 years. We found a way to do it. And instead of jumping at it, you said no, because you're afraid that these athletes are going to demand something that they actually need. The disrespect is disgusting of these athletes, of these players in the league. And a lot of people were jumping on Liz Cambage for calling it out. And all I see is that all these stories coming out, all these things that the WNBA has been doing, all these corners that these owners are cutting, all I see is her being proven correct. All I see is her being proven right. If you don't have the means to give these players what they need so they can go out there and be successful and perform at a high level as the world-class athletes they are, give up the damn team to an owner that can. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me, man. That just dumbassery it just boils my blood. That was episode 106 of Toss Tristain Sports Show. Y'all know where to find me on social media. On Facebook is at T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. On Twitter and Instagram at D20double. That's at D, the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. Follow me in all spaces. And y'all know where the home of Toss is, TossNationMedia.com. Your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But, as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T-Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week. So long from Toss.